Today I'm going to be talking about ORM. ORM means Object Relational Mapping, and that is the best way to work with databases when you are building an application. If you are joining me for the first time, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any update from me. And also, if you have any challenges, please let me know in the comment box below this video. So ORM means Object Relational Mapping. Way back in time, when we have normally build databases, we build database like this. So normally we create tables and then we create relationship between these tables, and then we build our application. We connect from our application to the database, and we're able to write queries, display data on the form. But now things have changed. Way back in time, it was easier. Somehow it was a bit easier. For instance, if I have these three tables I have here, we have users. A user can create several posts. So we have one user, many posts. And a user can belong to a location, or we can say one location, many users. You see how it relates. So it's easy. So in the post table, I can actually include the user ID of the person, of the user that created the post. Or in the user table, I can include location ID. And in the interface like this, I can simply drag the primary key to the foreign key. For instance, we have user ID. I want to relate it to the post. I can simply drag from here. I can simply drag from here and put it right here in the user ID, and the relationship is created very, very, very easily for me. And when you write the query, it's easy to also relate and access this data. And in this case, you also drag. In this case, you drag from the primary key to the foreign key, and voila, everything is done for you perfectly. So this is how we do it way back in time. But right now, ORM means that when you build your application in using object-oriented approach, you have your classes, right? When you build your classes, the classes loosely map to tables in the database. What it means is that instead of creating a database and also creating the classes separately and connect them together, you simply create only your application, and an ORM tool will generate the database and generate the tables for you based on your classes that you have defined. So that is how it works. But then comes certain challenges in ORM. Now, in this demo we are going to be doing today, we are going to be using ORM tool called Hibernate. Actually, Hibernate is part of Spring framework. Once you add the necessary dependency, you already have Hibernate. So let's now go to Spring, and then let me show you. So we have a simple application corresponding to what we just did. So we have three classes. We have the location ID is there. We also have the post, and we also have the users. Three classes. Now I've not actually put in the attributes of this class. So meanwhile, the step-by-step, everything I'm going to do now, the procedures, the everything is right here in this my website, in the web page. So if you miss out something, just go there, follow the procedure. Now there's a more detailed procedure in the website. So, but today I'm going to simply explain to you how Hibernate generates the tables, how it manages the relationship between these tables when it generates them. So we are going to be talking of three important annotations: the one-to-many, the at many-to-one, but more important is the at join column annotation. If you don't get these things right, then most likely you'll have some challenges along the line. So we'll be adding one annotation, and we'll see the effect it will have on the tables it generates, and we'll add another one, and gradually we'll see how everything works. The first thing I want to do is, let me just show you, in this my website, you have everything, you have a link to everything. So for instance, I'm using H2 database. H2 is an in-memory database that is very, very good when you are developing an application and you are testing it as well. So I've configured H2 database. If you want to configure the H2 database, simply copy this code and paste it in your application.properties file, as you can see right here on this page, right? So paste this code right there, and when you run it, you simply visit H2 console and you can see what is happening there. Again, for your classes, annotate them with at entity annotation also have ID annotation for the primary keys of these classes. Okay, so I'm going to run this application. When I run this application, I'm going to go to H2 console. We are going to see that it will create the tables for us for free. Easily it creates these tables because we've simply annotated our classes with as entity annotation. Therefore it will create the tables for us. The only thing you'll need to do is you specify the name of the database. That's all, and then it creates all the tables for you. Alright, so the application starts at port 8080. So I'm going to go to access H2 console. H2 console is also at port 8080. Where the application is running, you can have the H2 console right there. H2 console is a GUI, graphical user interface application you use to manage your database, your H2 database. Right, so I'm going to just go to localhost at port 8080 and go to /H2 console right here. So this is H2 console, and at this point I'm going to simply click on connect. When you click on connect, it opens up the console. So this is how the H2 console looks like, and you can see that it created 3 tables for us. The location, the post, and the user is created. There is no relationship in them. They are not related in any way because we have not created any relationship between these tables. So before we are going to create this relationship, let's first make up the other attributes of these tables. So for instance, let's take out this. So let's add all the other attributes of this table. For instance, in case of location, I have a name. I'm going to say private string name. Okay. And in case of post, we have post date, post date, and the user, right? So in this case, we are not talking about user ID, we are talking about the user because we are talking about objects this time. We are not talking about the foreign key and primary key. The diagram I have here is from the database where I have primary key and foreign key, but in this case, we are not talking about this. We are talking about the user. So in this case, we first talk about post date. I'm going to say private date time post date. So this is okay. Date time should be coming from util. So let's see. It should be coming from java.util. Okay, right here. And I'll have private. This time I'm going to say private user. Okay. So in this case, the data type for user is user. So it's going to be user, not primary key, not foreign key. And then finally, private string details. Okay, so this is for a post. This is how a post works. I'm going to save everything. And then finally, in case of user, I should have the first name, last name, and the location and the email. Right? So take note of how it works. So I'm going to say primary string first name. Is it primary? I'm mixing everything up. So it's private string first name, private string last name, and what else? Private location. Okay, location. Okay. So that is how you do it. You use it as objects, not foreign or primary keys, not keys this time. They are objects. And private string email, right? So we've created all our classes, and let's just take a look at H2 database to make sure that all these attributes have updated in the tables in H2 console. So I'm going to run this application. I'm going to rerun it, and let's go and check H2 console just to see everything is working fine. It's always good that when you are building an application, you're also testing it as you go to see how it goes. So after now, we now look at the how to actually configure this relationship we talked about. One thing you can see at this point is that we've created kind of relationship But for now, Spring does not know what to do with what kind of relationship it is, right? Because normally we have a one-to-many relationship, many-to-one, we have many-to-many, we have one-to-one. So we've created a relationship without telling Spring what to do with this relationship, and therefore it is complaining, right? So it's complaining now that we have a relationship, but it doesn't know exactly to do with this relationship. So it's telling us unable to build could not determine type user at table post. All right. So to correct this problem, you simply first determine the kind of relationship that exists. Let's start with user. We have the user and the post. From the user to the post, we have one user, many posts, right? We have one user, many posts, right? And we have one post, one user, many posts, and we have, but in case of posts, we have many posts, one user, right? So if we are trying to go from post to user, in this case, we are going to have one post, one user, many posts, right? So posts have to be at many to one, all right? So in this case, this is the many side of the relationship, and the attributes that we are notating is the one side. So we have many posts, the current class is a many posts relating to one single user. That is fine. And we do the same thing for, we also have many users, one location, right? Many users, one location at this point. Many users, one location. So I'm going to say at many to one. Okay, so I'm going to just save everything. All right, so just to show you as a little explanation on how this, what exactly is happening, if I come here and say at many to one, you can see that the explanation says that at many to one here. Yeah, so this is it. We will configure many to one relationship between user and location. Similarly, we do the same thing between posts and user. So many to one. That is very, very, very clear. So at this point, we can now run the application just to see that the relationship has been created, but actually there is no mapping that has been done. We only created the relationship, but no mapping has been done. But it's something weird, something very strange is going to happen now. So let's just run it and let me show you what happens. So I'm going to run this application at this point. Now, when you use these annotations, many to one and at one to many, the user entity does the mapping by creating a column called location ID in the users table. So basically, let's look at a situation whereby you have a user and location. We have one location, many users. So when we use that many to one, what is going to happen is the location ID is going to create a new column called the location table. The location table is going to create, or the user table is going to create a new column called user ID. So it's going to kind of add those foreign keys for us on its own. So kind of this is going to try to create this relationship that normally happens in the database. So if I go back to H2 console at this point, if I refresh at this point, it's going to log in, relog in again. And if I go down to location, okay, that is fine. So post. So in case of post now, we have user ID. Okay, you can see user ID has been created for us right here. And also in case of user, we also have location ID. So it's exactly trying to do exactly what we normally do in the database. That is not all, there is more. Now we've talked about many to one. Now let's talk about one to many. Now, if you have a user object, you want to get the list of posts from that user object, right? So in that case, we will add another field here that says private lists of posts, and I'm going to call it posts, right? Private list of posts. So this is telling us that give me all the posts, list of posts for this user. And just like you know, we are going to simply annotate this with as one to many, right? So this is very clear. One user give us many posts, and that is fine. Let me just put in all this. It's going to be java.util.list, so yeah. And we are going to go to do the same thing for location. So in a location, we want to see all the users in that location. So in that way, we are going to say private list of users in this location. We're going to call it users. So we are talking of list of users in this location here right now. And we are going to notate it with at one to many. Is clear. One location, many users. So I'm going to say at one to many. Alright. Now this is where the magic now happens. Something very, very strange is going to happen. And when I run this application now, once you add an annotation, the class where you added the annotation will try to create the relationship for you. So in this case, when you have location is going to try to create this relationship by creating a mapping table. An additional mapping table is going to create. That is going to use this mapping table to handle the relationship. Meanwhile, at the other side, in the user side, the user tries to manage this relationship by creating a user ID as an additional field. So both of them are trying to manage this relationship by doing it in their own way, because we've not told these entities who is in charge of this relationship, right? Okay, so let's just run it and let's see what happens. So I'm going to just run it at this point. So I'm going to just go back to H2 and see what happens right there, okay? Alright, so everything starts up and we are going to see what happens in H2. Let's see, let's just wait for a couple of seconds for Tomcat to start, alright? So Tomcat starts successfully, and I'm going to simply come back here, refresh this page. I'm going to connect again. Now, what I'm saying now has happened. You can see here we have location underscore users. And in locations table, we have location underscore users, and also we have in users we have location ID, right? So when it comes to relationship between user and location, we have one location, many users, or have many users, one location. So the users table is trying to handle this relationship by adding location ID, and the location table is trying to handle this relationship by creating one more table called the location underscore users. Okay, so that's the problem we are going to solve. Now, to solve this problem, we are going to add something called an attribute. Okay, so an attribute is simply something that explains an annotation, that gives more meaning to an annotation. So we are going to tell, so I'm going to kind of find where it is at this point. So at map by attributes at part 7, the mapped by attribute of the one to many. Take note, the mapped by attribute is added to the one to many. You use it to tell the one to many annotation that the relationship has already been handled using a foreign key in the corresponding entity. In this way, an additional table is not created. So we are trying to tell one of the entities, please don't create another table. The relationship has been handled at the other side. So in this case now, at this point, we are going to tell the location table, location please don't create another table called location underscore users, because this location underscore users is created by location. We are going to tell location that please don't create this location underscore users. We are going to tell it that the relationship has been handled at the other side. So to do that, you simply say mapped by equal to, and specify the name of the name of the attributes, sorry, the name of the field where this relationship is handled. So in this case, in user entity here, the relationship is handled at this point, right? So we have this one-to-many, many-to-one relationship. The relationship is handled at this point. So I'm going to say map by location. So here I'm going to say map by location, and I'm going to also go to user at this point, and I'm going to say map by equal to post, right? Because in post ID is a map by post or mapped by the user. So the relationship is handled at this point. So it's going to be mapped by the user. So map by user, and then putting everything. I'm going to just save. So map by the B is going to be capital letter, so it's going to be camel case, okay. And the same thing with location as well. Alright, so at this point, I'm going to rerun it. Let's just make sure everything is working and we don't have these extra tables in our database. Alright, so if we go to, okay, let's wait for it to run so that after now, we now talk about very important thing, and that is something called join column. Now, join column is very important because now, if you are inserting item into the table, okay, now that item is not going to recognize this new foreign key that has been created. We are doing an insertion into these tables. That insertion is not going to recognize that foreign key that has been created, and that's the problem. I'm going to show you how it works at this point. Meanwhile, let's just go and make sure that we have everything. These additional tables have been gotten rid of. So I'm going to just connect, and now everything is fine. No new tables. The relationship is handled perfectly well. So now let's talk about inserting item into the tables that has been created. Now, to insert an item, you simply create a new file called data.sql. This data.sql will contain insert statement that inserts data into the table, into your tables. Alright, so before I do that, let me just go to the web page where this is discussed. So let me just go to our join column annotation. Let's see. Our join column annotation should be somewhere here. Yeah, here. So we are going to be talking about our join column annotation. So let's see. The adjoin column annotation is used to specify the actual column used for the mapping. Okay? This is done at the entity that owns the relationship. Okay? Let's see. If we go back to our application, we say that one entity owns the relationship. That entity that owns the relationship is the entity that where you have many to one, that's the entity that owns the relationship. So in the case of location and user, case of the relationship between a location and the user, the entity that owns the relationship is the user entity. Okay, is the user entity, and that's why we are telling location at this point, location place. The relationship is marked by the user entity. So the user entity at this point, is marked by at many to one at this point. So user and location. So at this point, location marked by location. So we have user. Yeah. Alright, so this is where the relationship is handled in the location field. Now, the Hibernate created a new field called location ID. It doesn't recognize this location here. It created its own location ID. However, when we insert something into the table, that insert is not going to recognize that new field that has been created. Okay, so let me just show you how it works. I have let me just open some use a data.sql file. Just go here. Should have data.sql file. It should be somewhere here. So I'm going to use this data.sql file. Let me just open it with Notepad. So we have insertion into the tables at this point. So let me just take it. Let me just copy it, and I'm going to create a new a new data.sql file. New file is going to be data.sql file .sql, and we are going to write insert statement. Insert statement you write in data.sql file is going to execute when the application starts running, right? So it's going to automatically execute and insert some initial data into your tables in your database. So okay, so let's see what's happening right now. Okay, so let me open the data.sql file, right click, open with, I'm going to open with text editor, and I'm going to paste everything right there, okay? So we insert into location, we have one, Budapest, location ID and name, what is happening, so let's just take out this. Okay, it's trying to open this data.sql in MySQL Workbench because it's seeing the extension as .sql. So let me just close. So we insert into location 1, Budapest, that is fine. Now when we are insert into user, values, first name, last name, and we have this first name, last name, we have email, and we have, this is going to be location ID, okay? That's location ID, that's all these items here. Let's run it and see if it's actually going to insert all these items correctly. So let me save, and I'm going to run at this point. What is going to happen at this point is that new column that was created, this new column called for instance the user ID here, or for instance the location ID created by at this point by the user, is not going to be recognized by the insert statement. This is simply not going to be recognized. And that is where a JoinColumn comes in. You are going to use a JoinColumn to solve this problem, because nothing is ever going to be inserted into that location ID or user ID that has been created. Okay, let's look at our application. I start some exception. Let's see. Timestamp. Okay, so some issues with the date and time. Cannot pass timestamp, So, okay, well, let's just see what we can, cannot pass timestamp. I think there's a way to specify the format of this time, but at this point, let's just use it as a string. So let me go to at this point and use this post user is the location post. Okay, you have post, so it's gonna be actually date time. It's gonna be date time. Okay, so it's gonna be date time, and it's coming from data that no. It's gonna be local date time, if I'm not mistaken. Local dates time. Let's see. So local date time, that is fine. That's what we are going to use. So we are actually going to use local date time. Okay. So I'm going to save everything and let's rerun it and see. So we are saying that a join column annotation comes to the rescue when we are going to see a problem that's going to happen when the insertion does not actually happen correctly, and it's not going to insert into the foreign key column that's created. The adjoining column annotation is used to specify the actual column. So you're actually going to create a new column that will be used by Hibernate for the insertion. So, okay, so timestamp, Okay, so we have this time problem. So let's just use it as a string, and so that we'll not have issues. So let's see. So in the case of user post relationship, the post owns the relationship and automatically creates the user ID column. This is the join column. Similarly, the location user relationship, the location owns the relationship and automatically creates the location ID column. Now, so this is what is happening at this point. Okay, so everything starts up. I'm going to go back at this point. I'm going to refresh and connect, and so let's just click on location and just select everything. Okay, fine. Let's click on post. Let's clear this. Post, run. Okay, so I have post date. I have user ID. Okay. So let's clear these. So I have user going to run. Okay, so actually it worked at this point. For some reason it's kind of, let's see. So I have, okay, join column was not specified, so it's actually recognized the join column and used it. Okay. The reason is because in the data.sql file, we actually specified the values in alphabetical order of the names of the columns. But perhaps you don't do it that way. And most likely you have to need as join column. So what I'm going to recommend is that you take some time, follow the instructions in the website, and then build this application yourself, and then you understand all the explanations made at that point. So I'm going to thank you for viewing. I remain kind on the Tech Pro. If you have challenges, let me know. If you are joining for the first time, hit the subscribe button below to subscribe. Also like this video and share it around with your friends.